bring in our panel to talk about the data center build out. We just had a conversation with the CEO of WYFI, Sam Tabar, just talking about AI power scarcity. And that's what we're talking about here now with Mark Gibbons, CIO of Gibbons Capital Management, and Lisa Martin, business technology strategist at Lisa Martin Media. Thank you both for being with us. Mark, we think about these hyperscalers, and Sam was saying that the slowdown, I know they're doing a lot of circular funding. He said the slowdown is the data center build out.
Yeah, individual issues are going to come up with individual companies with these data centers. But as far as really large bottlenecks, we aren't seeing too many. And I think the largest bottleneck, that we face really is power. But when you think about the development of power and the way our economy works, players will come in to, adjust to that. So the data centers could become more efficient, or we maybe rely on a new source of power like nuclear. So as far as I'm concerned, I believe in the long run these issues will get addressed.
And also, Lisa, you were saying there are major players that are the winners. Which ones would you say are the winners?
I think, great to see you, Nicole. I think some of the winners are really clear. We're seeing the hyperscalers. We're seeing Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta. They're all funding this expansion. We're also seeing hardware suppliers like NVIDIA, one of our darlings. They're providing the essential AI accelerator chips. The primary winners so far are the companies that are really ultimately, at the end of the day, Nicole, they're providing the core infrastructure and high performance components. And we're really at the beginning of what could be a massive global infrastructure wave in AI and data centers.
I mean, there's no question their demand is there, but Lisa, are you concerned now about the build out and doesn't catch up? So how and why does that slow us down?
Well, the scale of the investment is staggering. If you look at what JP Morgan estimates, in terms of annual funding needs for data center AI infrastructure, they say this might reach by 2026, $700 billion. 2026 is around the corner. They say this will exceed 1.4 trillion by 2030. But the boom about the AI data center and funding, it's not just about tech companies. We need to kind of expand this. It's really about major capital markets. So the question of which markets will finance the boom is already shifting to how will financing be structured. And because the growth is so big, so is the risk. It's significant both in execution, construction, power, real estate, and in return, expectations.
And, Mark, I know you were talking about delays, whether it's power constraints or even just construction delays. It seems so simplistic. Is that the problem?
Yeah, like I said, I really don't see that as a long-term problem. I do see it as a short-term problem. Sure, there's going to be delays. Could be construction delays. There could be, problems with equipment as we build these out. But this is going to be a large, super cycle type of an event, and short-term problems with individual issues and individual companies can easily be addressed over time.
And what names do you like here, Mark? I mean, for the long term?
I say keep it simple. So, I like Meta. I like Microsoft, Google, Amazon. So I like the hyperscalers. I also like NVIDIA. There's no need to really complicate this. And we've got this recent pullback, this, really pretty significant recent pullback. These are great opportunities to buy these great companies and ride this important wave of innovation.
And how do you feel about, both of you, about the U.S. versus China? NVIDIA has noted that not having the Blackwell chips going to China is problematic. At the same time, I heard that Jensen Huang was very positive about the data center revenue going forward. What are your thoughts, Lisa?
My thoughts, Nicole, are on the investor side in the U.S. They're rushing in because the sector, it's matured. some of the things Mark said I completely agree with. We're seeing that financing models, they're moving to more sophisticated models. Returns, we're getting some clarity there. And next gen designs like liquid cooling, high density racks, they're promising higher long-term value. And if we add in global factors like sovereign AI mandates, data sovereignty rules, we have multiple regions really racing to build capacity. And I think the result, even with some of the things Mark talked about, power, construction challenges, 2025 has really shaped up to be another record year for data center developing from a financial perspective. And we'll only see that momentum carry us in and through 2026.
Yeah, and Mark, I mean, you noted the power. I mean, we think about utilities and nuclear power even, right?
Yeah, so obviously that's what I view as the main constraint here is power. There will be other issues, but I think power is the main one. But again, the way our economy works, right, we live in a capitalistic society. There will be players that come in, they'll make the data centers more efficient. They will find ways to deliver this power to these data centers.
What about real estate, Lisa? Is that something, another sort of idea here that we got to contend with?
We do, because it has been a challenge from a constraint standpoint. At the end of the day, even though power, as Mark said, real estate, those are constraints, we've seen investment in AI data centers simply booming. The physical build out from a real estate perspective hasn't quite caught up because of the power limits, permits, construction, getting that specialized hardware in place. But the next steps really are, as we head into 2026, to ramp up infrastructure, complete construction, get these centers fully operational for the AI workloads that are no doubt coming down the pipe.
Lisa, next week we're going to hear from NVIDIA. You're constantly following these names. I mean, you're sort of breathing these names, these tech kind of hyperscalers. Generally, for the most part, for all of our conversations. Can you expand some of your thoughts, whether it's a particular company or a trend you're seeing for 2026? Do you expect more records? Is there a particular name you're watching closely?
Besides NVIDIA, Nicole, it's the darling of the Mag 7, right? We're always watching it because it seems like at what we've seen trajectory-wise, NVIDIA can make no mistakes. I have a lot of friends that work for NVIDIA. I think we're seeing so much opportunity where companies like CoreWeave, Microsoft, they're OpenAI, they're partnering with NVIDIA because the momentum is there. I think the trajectory only shows us getting stronger, and that will help from a U.S., I think, China relations perspective, give us an edge.
And Mark, you talk about the tech boom, this revolution that will continue with all the CapEx spending. And you mentioned the names. You said keep it simple. The ones that are doing well continue to do well, right? You mentioned Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA, Amazon, and Meta. What other names or sectors do you put in a portfolio that you think can work for 2026?
Well, you could look at different areas. You could look at software. So, there's security providers out there. CrowdStrike, Palo Alto. There's also power providers themselves. So a name like, Quanta Services. But yeah, there's lots of ways to play it. There's even new names out there. Back to software is Palantir. It's definitely a new name. Some people would argue higher price, but it does certainly have a long runway in front of it.
And we think about all the materials that are needed in the world of tech. A final thought, Lisa, as we give you the final word here.
I think what we've seen is that all these folks Mark and I are talking about, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta, NVIDIA, they're all funding this expansion. NVIDIA is giving us this foundational layer of AI accelerator chips. The primary winners are going to be the companies that are providing the core infrastructure and the high performance components. So the ones that we mentioned as we go into 2026 are still the ones to watch.
All right, Mark Gibbons, CIO, Gibbons Capital Management, Lisa Martin, Business Technology Strategist, Lisa Martin Media. Thank you both for being with us.